Hi, my name is Peter from Kaffeine, and I'm here in another episode of Inside the Mind of a Coffee Shop Owner. And this time I want to talk about a bit of the history of coffee in London, the formative years, the early years, the baby years from 2005, basically when I first arrived and when Flat White opened, up until 2009 when I opened here. Obviously those growth years are really, really important, and I feel really, really lucky to have been a huge part of that. So as you know from other stories that I've told, in 2005, in maybe around June, a place called Flat White opened in Berwick Street. And from what I understand, there was an Australian bloke who had a bit of money, and he kept traveling to London, and he decided he wanted to have a coffee shop here in London that he could go to. And he found a guy called Cameron McClure, who was from New Zealand, and they opened, as I said, in June 2005. From the stories I've heard, for the first 6 months, it was really quiet. No one really went. And then all of a sudden people started going, and they really started to realize how cool this sort of place was. And from then, that shop went through the roof. It was amazing. I've heard stories they were doing 1,000 coffees a day out of that store alone. From 2005 to 2006, 2007, you may remember James Hoffman, who we've referenced before. So he won the World Barista Championship in 2007. And Annette Mulveya, who was his partner at the time, won the World Cup Tasting Championship. And in 2008, they opened a roastery called Square Mile. Taylor Street Baristas opened in, I think, 2006. And then there was places like Tina We Salute You out in Hackney. There was Taste a Bit of Love on Hackney Road. And all these sort of small places that were opening up, especially in the east of London. And you really had to know where to go and who to talk to. Square Mile, they started doing cupping nights on a Wednesday night, or maybe once a month. And I somehow found out about it and went down to their roastery in Bethnal Green, and they were doing things like espresso tasting. And you got James Hoffman there, making espressos, and we were all tasting it and we were writing notes on the board. I remember standing in the corner, like being a super lonely boy, not knowing anybody, and all these super coffee geeks talking about coffee. It was such cool times. And then of course there was a guy called Gwilym Davies who went on to become the World Barista Champion in 2009. And if you know London, you know Columbia Road Flower Market. And in those days, say 2007, 2008, he had a coffee cart down there on a Sunday morning, and everyone would go down there and drink coffee. And the queue would be 30 or 40 people long. You're waiting 20 minutes for a coffee, but it didn't matter because it was Sunday morning. And you'd have James Hoffman there, Gwilym Davies there, all these other World Barista Champions coming down and making coffee. It was really, really cool. And of course, you had Monmouth as well, one of the stalwarts of London coffee scene. We certainly can't forget them. Borough Market, there's queues of people outside on a Borough Market on a Saturday morning. And then, there was a place called Dose that opened in sort of Barbican Way, Farringdon Way in 2008. And in 2009, I opened my shop here. And lots of people say to me, hey, you're one of the first coffee shops in London, you're one of the originals. And I sort of am, but I'm not. Because it's those originators, those people who started in coffee in London, who had the vision to bring that over here, they're the ones we need to talk about. There was Clemson's in Broadway Market too. They're absolutely fantastic, and I took a lot of inspiration from my shop here as well. But it's those early years. And I think if you have the opportunity, if you're interested in coffee in London and the history of it, I really recommend you go to those places that still exist today. Flat White in Berwick Street, Monmouth in Borough Market, Clemson's in Broadway Market, and have a look at those and say, hey, these guys were instigators, and pay them respect. I'll see you next time in another episode.